Hey guys, it's Catherine here. We are live streaming today a very special podcast episode on the In Her Financial Shoes podcast with the incredible Lisa Johnson, who's been on our podcast before. She's returning to us yet again to talk about her zone of genius, which is all about reoccurring revenue, or what most people kind of talk about with like passive income or semi-passive income. We'll maybe talk about what some of the differences are actually when we get started today. But today's all about how to figure out your big idea. And the reason that this came up is because I polled my community 2 weeks ago, actually, in our Facebook community, and asked them what stops you from creating a new income stream for yourself. And the number one, by far, reason why people weren't creating additional revenues for themselves was figuring out, what the hell do I talk about? What do I create? What's the big idea that I want to share with the world to make money from it? And so we want to dive deep into this today. And the reason I've invited Lisa on is because Lisa is the go-to expert. She is a passive income strategist. She's helped me consistently in my business. I've worked with Lisa through several different programs. I've worked with her on a one-to-one basis. And Lisa also has a free challenge coming up that starts on Monday, which you can head over to the link that you can see on the screen in front of you, which is catherinemorgan.com/passive income if you want some help with finding out your big idea. So let's kind of get stuck into this particular topic. So first of all, Lisa, welcome to the podcast again. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back. I feel at home here these days.
It is. Well, you've been here too. You sat on this desk, like Lisa, when I was working with you last year, came and hosted her little wind down Friday that she does in her membership from this very seat.
It's famous.
And actually, one thing I want to talk about before we get into like creating your big idea, Lisa, and I know this is something you've been talking about just today on social media, is that we all have money beliefs. We all have these kind of things that we don't like talking about and we do like talking about. And often we refer to these as like money blocks, things that stop us from feeling comfortable about either receiving money or investing in ourselves. And I noticed this morning, Lisa, that just you were sharing an article that you were featured in as a multimillionaire. And, you know, a lot of the comments that you'd received on that article were quite negative because of how much money you've made. So can we just talk about that? Like, what kind of money blocks do you see from the work that you do as a passive income strategist?
Yeah, I see a lot. And I think that especially this is more so in the UK than some of the other global places that I work with clients. It's more in the UK that I see we almost grow up thinking that money is vulgar, that we can't talk about money because we're told, you know, it's not something that British people talk about. It's vulgar to talk about money. And even though we talk about everything else, so you think about you and your girlfriends, when you go out, you'll talk about everything. You'll talk about anything that's happening with your body. You'll talk about your sex life. You won't ask someone how much they earn. It's like such a taboo subject here. And I think that massively stops people making the money that they want to make, because I see this block on even people hiding, if they're making money, people hiding it because they feel like if they're making money, other people won't like them. It's almost as if it's been conditioned from a very young age to see rich people as bad people, as people we don't want to be like. And so I kind of already knew this because of my background. You know, I grew up in a council estate and I saw how people reacted if somebody came past that was in a nice Porsche or whatever. It would never be, oh, look at that Porsche, it looks great, I wish I had one. It would be a lot of swearing about what that person must be like. And so it didn't really surprise me. What did surprise me about the articles, I had 2 articles this week, one in the Express and one in the Mirror. And what really surprised me about the comments was that they were all men. So every comment that was negative, whether it be, oh, she's made a lot of money, but she needs to lose weight, whether it be, well, she must be doing this in a really unethical way, whether it's, well, this is a load of BS, I don't believe a word of it. The comments were all from men. So
slanderous too, right?
Oh, very, yeah. But I mean, I think you expect it with the British press these days.
Never read the comments on any PR.
Never read the comments. But I thought it was really interesting that men, there is definitely an issue with men not wanting to see women make money. And I'm not talking about
what I find interesting, I think, about that is, as you say, like British culture, not actually just British culture, but cultural beliefs tell us that men are the providers, they're the hunter-gatherers, and women are the caregivers. And this is very prevalent. We see this a lot in our communities, and we serve men and women. We serve men in our financial professional capacity in our certification program, and then women in our other audience. And a lot of women really struggle with charging for their services, like receiving money, because they're perceived to be the caregivers. And for men as well, they also feel threatened sometimes if the woman is earning more than the man, but also they often struggle with the whole status spontaneity relationship with money, where they feel that, you know, they have to be the provider. And if they're not working enough, they're not working hard, which is interesting from a passive income perspective, isn't it? Because the whole point of recurring income is that you don't work hard for money. And that can clash with some of that kind of ingrained belief.
Yeah, and I've seen that in my programs a lot. Like we serve men and women as well in the one-to-many program that I do. And there's definitely a case of men going, well, there must be more to it. I must have to do some more work than this. But what they don't have a problem with is charging for their services at all. That if I tell them what to charge, they'll go charge it. Whereas a woman will go, oh, what will people think? You know, like that's the first issue that a woman might face. What I found really interesting is that I have a group, a membership that's just for women. And many times I've said, hey, like, can we open this up to men? Because I work with so many men now. And the women are like, if you open it up to men, will leave because they feel so like they can't talk about money. They can't talk about the things they want to talk about without the judgment of men in there, even though the men I work with, they're not like that at all. You know, they're very open to all different types of things. They don't want it. And so I haven't been able to do it because it's their membership.
Do you think it's maybe more about self-judgment than judgment from others? So when we feel threatened that actually, no, don't let men in here because they're going to make us feel awful about making more money, is that more of a reflection, do you think, on how we feel about ourselves and money?
It could be. And I think actually you could see that both ways. So those men making comments, especially the ones that, you know, in the article making comments on things like weight, things that are nothing to do with what the article is about. They needed to find a way to make themselves feel better. So they look for the one thing that they can find that might make them feel better. And that says, you know, we have to look at that with compassion at the end of the day, because what that says is they're not happy with their life. Like if something like this is triggering them so much that a woman is making money, what's happened in their life to make them feel that way? And it's so circular, isn't it? Because these things can generationally carry on and on and on. And I certainly see that in my own generation of poverty. Like somebody at some stage has to decide to be the person that changes that.
Oh, and that's the power, isn't it? Is that when you make that decision to start to make money and feel good about it, and that, you know, we can do such good things with money. This is the thing, right? We can create powerful change in the world when we have money and we have resources available to us. And especially for women, because there's lots of research to show that we invest it differently to men. And I don't want this to be like a gender conversation, but we do, as women and wealth, when we can stand into our power, step into wealth, we can create not just possibilities for our own lives, but for every single future generation ahead of us, changing that narrative.
And definitely what I've seen is that when you speak to women about, like, why do you want to do, when I speak to women about passive income and I say, why do you want to make passive income? Money is never the first thing they say. It's impact. I want to make more impact on the world. The secondary thing is money, which I find really interesting because they want to make impact and make money. And they often have an issue with that because they believe that they're mutually exclusive when obviously we know that.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? And maybe that just makes it easier to talk about, because it's easier to talk about, I want to create more impact, than it is to say, I want to make more money.
But why is it? Why is it wrong? Why do we feel it's wrong to say, well, actually, I have a business because I want to make more money so I can have more experiences and do more great things? Like, it is funny that even we notice that feels better in us. And I'm somebody that talks about money all the time. And yet even I feel it's easier to say to somebody, I want to make an impact in the world, then I'll feel a bit weird about going, well, I just want to make, people say, what's your big why? And if you say, well, I want to make a lot of money so I can buy 2 new houses, that's seen as like, oh, that's such an awful thing to say. But why is it?
Because of the narratives that we tell ourselves based on our beliefs around money. Yeah. So it's a really interesting one, isn't it? It's a really interesting one. And when it comes to creating reoccurring revenue, then in income, Lisa, one of your zones of genius is helping people to figure out, like, how can I make money from my skills, my expertise, my passion, for the impact that I can then go and create. So I know you've got a challenge coming up next week, which people can register for, but how do people start with finding that one big idea?
I think this is the question I get asked the most. Like, out of everything anyone asks me about passive income, it's like, but how can I figure out what I should do with passive income? And I'm going to go through this in a lot more detail on day 1 of the challenge on Monday. But the basics of it are, how I always think of it is in 4 parts. So if somebody comes to me completely new and says, right, well, I want to make passive income, how? The first thing I'll ask them is, with whatever you do on a one-to-one basis, whether you are a PT, whether you are a branding designer, whether you're a coach, whatever it is that you do, is there a way to teach other people to do it themselves? Because not everybody can afford you. Take an interior designer as an example. Not everybody can afford one-to-one with an interior designer to come in and make their house look nice. But what they might be able to afford is a lower cost program where that interior designer teaches you what they would normally do so that you can go and do it yourself. Same with branding, same with personal training, same with anything. So the first way to kind of think is, whatever I do in my business or life now, whether that's corporate or not, can I teach people to do this instead of me doing it for them? The second way would be, can I teach people to be me? So if you are an interior designer, can you teach people how to get clients as an interior designer? Or can you teach people how to become an interior designer? Or can you teach people one part of interior design, let's say customer service, or, something completely different, how to do the financial side of it, whichever. Can you teach you, basically, can you make your own competition? Which is never a bad thing. So that's the next thing I would think. So, for somebody that wanted to be let's just say a branding designer, can you teach somebody to become a branding designer? And sometimes that's no, and sometimes it's yes. And then the third way is, we are at the moment, for the past 1.5 years, we've been in what's known as the entrepreneurial gold rush, where more entrepreneurs than ever before are starting up in businesses, because we had a pandemic, people were on furlough, people were made redundant, people don't want to go back to the office. Basically, a pandemic has made people reevaluate their entire lives of what they, is this really what I wanted to do with my life? And so more people than ever are setting up in business and starting their own. And it doesn't matter what that business is. The first thing that people will do who set up in business is look to others that have either already been there or have the skills that they need. So if we're thinking about starting to make passive income, the first thing I would think is, do I have some skills from the jobs that I've had before that I could help entrepreneurs with? So for instance, I had a client that came to me and said, I want to do some passive income, but I don't know what to do it on. She'd been in PR for 15 years. Every entrepreneur needs to know how to get, public relations, how to get articles in newspapers, how to get on TV, that kind of thing, to blow up their profile. So she now helps people do that. So and whether you worked in a call center and so know about the customer journey, whether, there's so many things that you might have done before in jobs that have transferable skills into helping entrepreneurs. So that's the third way. And if you can't think of anything in those 3 ways, then that's when you turn to your hobbies. So is there something that people always ask you, oh, can I pick your brains on this? Because it's something that you know a lot about, whether that's, I have somebody that has a membership that is just for people that like the theatre. She's made well over 600,000 now from that membership. I have somebody that has a membership in Caribbean cooking. I have somebody else that has courses on like how to teach your kids confidence, potty training, how to get around Disneyland with 2 under 2s, dating, sex, that whatever is the thing that you find fun, like the thing that you know the most about because you've already been there. Somebody else is just a couple of steps below where you are and they can't be bothered to go and try and find it all out, work it all out on Google. They will come to you instead to find out how to do that. I could probably do potty training twins, like it's that kind of thing. Like I've already been there, I've done it, did it successfully. So somebody might come to me and go, oh, tell me how you did this, or tell me how you got them to sleep through the night. I don't need to be a nanny to do that. I've already been through it, so I can teach somebody else how to do it.
And when you talk about like potty training, for example, for twins, like that's quite niche, isn't it? It's not just potty training, it's potty training for, and maybe for twin boys in your situation, and Lisa.
You go as niche as possible.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second as well, because I know that for a lot of my audience, particularly who are like really on that kind of cusp of, I really want to create this for myself, but I don't know where to start. And also there's that time element that comes in, which time was our second reason why our community put as why they're stopping, not making passive income, which time is a bit of a kind of grey smoke. But I do understand that if you're employed, for example, and you want to be self-employed, there is a time restraint, that the fact that you're in the office maybe 9 to 5 days a week. And it's kind of, how do I create that time to invest in learning and building this on the side of, having an employed business. So how important is it, first of all, to go niche, and then let's explore the time boundary?
I think the niche thing's really important, especially when it depends what it comes to. When it comes to memberships, certainly. When it comes to things like ebooks, templates and things like that, definitely. Courses, you can go a little bit more broad, but I do think it's important, because just like with any business and any ideal client, people are going to choose the one that best fits them. So at the moment, where there are so many female entrepreneur coaches, for instance, if you were looking for a female entrepreneur coach that can help you with passive income, there's not that many of us. If you're looking for a branding person that deals only with people in the pet industry, you're much more likely to go and learn from them than you are to go and learn from somebody that just does branding for everybody, because it speaks to you. You know that they're a specialist in your area. So the more you can niche, the better. And people often say, I feel like I'm pigeonholing. Maybe there's not that many people out there that would be able to come into my membership. But I have seen memberships, right from someone has a £1 million membership that I know that deals with speech therapy issues in kids with a particular problem of speech. Like it's not even as niche as speech therapy in kids. It's more niche than that, because what you'll do is you'll get all of the people that need you coming only to you.
I guess it's a bit like jack of all trades, or like if you try and serve everybody, you just end up serving nobody, because you end up just being swallowed up in and amongst maybe other competitors.
It definitely is that. And if we're honest about the time thing, there's no getting away from it. Like we have to decide what our priority is. So when I went from doing a lot of one-to-one work, I was fully booked at the time, working from 6 a.m. till 11 o'clock at night, and realized I wanted to make passive income. I knew that the first thing I was going to have to do is start to grow an audience. And so I knew that was going to take me an hour a day, or maybe 2 hours a day. And so I knew I was going to have to take a dip, because I couldn't continue doing what I was doing and start growing an audience. So I got rid of a couple of clients, which meant a financial dip for a while, to be able to do the things I needed to do to make passive income, so that it could go right the way up. But I always think with time, it's about what you're prioritizing. Like you have to make time for the life you want in 2 years, not for the life you're having now. It's about what you want it to look like then.
That's really powerful, isn't it? To make that decision to build your time around what you want for your future self in 2 years' time, rather than just living day by day and, Monday comes and Friday comes and
you just carry on. You're on the treadmill. You carry on doing the thing that you've always done, because it's always worked. The problem is, if you carry on doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. So at some point there needs to be a bomb dropped in, and that might be that you lose clients. It's the same when you change, your ideal client. You know that it means you're going to have no clients for a while until the new clients find you. There's always going to be that dip, but it's always worth it.
So once you've got this big idea then, or you sort of started to think about, okay, so what do people ask me all of the time? What am I passionate in? What, going through those 4 steps you shared with us, you then talked about the importance of like building an audience before you launch whether it's a membership or a course or some kind of other regular reoccurring income stream. Yeah. How long do you think it takes to build an audience, and how big does your audience need to be before you launch your first reoccurring income stream?
So it's a bit like how long is a piece of string, because it is a bit about a numbers game. There are a lot of people that will tell you out there, you can sell a course without an audience. It just isn't true. You need an audience. And the bigger the audience, the better, because not everybody in your audience is ever going to buy from you. Only a small percentage will. So the bigger the audience, the bigger the percentage. So it is a numbers game, but more than a numbers game, it's an engagement game. So if you were to build an audience, and you could do it, let's say you decided not to do it organically. You were just going to chuck a load of money into Facebook ads to grow an audience. You could do that in a week. You could get 20,000 people on a list in a week or in a group, but it would be pointless because those people aren't nurtured. They don't know, like, or trust you. They haven't heard from you before. They're a completely cold audience. It's going to take you 3 to 6 months to nurture them anyway. So you may as well do it organically. So, I've had people that have only had 150-ish in a group and has made 50,000 from passive income, but they're unicorns. That's not normal. It's much more normal that you have 500 to 2,000 people in a group or on a list and you make 20 to 40,000. And then it grows after that. But it really does depend. You and I both know people that have made 1 million in courses, with a much smaller list than that, because it depends what you're selling. It depends how engaged those people are. It depends if you're giving them exactly what they're asking for. But growing an audience is really important. And when we talk about passive income, the bit that's misleading is the word passive, because we know it's not passive. Like, if it was passive, everybody would be doing it. It really should be called leveraged income, but people know it as passive income, so it's too late to change it. But the bit that's not passive is that bit, growing the audience. The rest of it is fairly simple and doesn't take up too much time. But growing the audience is the bit where most people give up, because it's a slow burn.
And how did you grow so take us right back to when you first created your first income stream. Okay. How did you engage your community? How long did you do that for? And then what was the first product or service that you invited them to purchase?
I know now that I could have done this much better, but when you first start, you just do what you know.
Yeah, it's great to hear the ups and downs too, right? Yeah.
So when I started, I didn't have a website or a Facebook page or a list or anything. All I did was I started a Facebook group, and I wanted to go into that Facebook group to help people with the things that I'd made mistakes on in business so that they didn't do the same thing. There was no real, I knew I wanted to monetize the Facebook group at some point, but there was no big goal of, I'm going to do these things to make sure they're ready. I just didn't understand it at the time. So I would go live every day. For 5 months, I went live every day, sometimes for 2 minutes, sometimes for 45, just to have a chat so that people could get to know me. I wasn't showing my expertise as much as I probably could, but I was showing my personality, and people buy from people they like. They will know if you've got the expertise that they need just by listening to you. So I went live every day for 5 months. And when it was 5 months, there were 600 people in the Facebook group. In month 6, I made £100,000 from just that Facebook group by putting my first course out there. And then 3 months later, it had grown to 1,200. Still no list, still no branding or anything, just me in a Facebook group. And I put out my first membership and had 163 people come in the first weekend. So for me, it's about doing one thing all the time.
Wow. And what I love about that as well is, no website, no branding, like just a Facebook community, which is free to have, doesn't cost it any money at all. But actually just growing an engaged audience. So just, as you said, showing up and showing that personality. It's not just about, going to do the most perfect Facebook Live with everything scripted and which is I remember when I first started doing Facebook Lives, I was like, God, what am I going to say? What am I going to talk about? I remember scripting everything, and I'd be like reading it off the screen, and
it's
just
funny.
a bit of confidence to show up.
And the thing is, there are people that don't want a Facebook group, and so they think they can't make passive income. But if I knew now what I knew then, I would have started my list earlier. And actually, you can do this entire thing with just an email list, and grow an email list and nurture on there with words rather than you showing up. There are different ways of doing things. For me, I'm always going to love video. Like, that is my favorite thing to do. I like showing up in that way because I like being myself. I don't like scripting things. Yes, things go wrong all the time. My kids will come in. Things will fall off the desk. I'll forget exactly what I was going to say. But I think that it's better to show the realities of things. I don't think people ever go, oh, I really want to work with someone perfect, ever.
Oh no,
so
no.
You and do it that way, but don't think that you have to have everything perfect before you start growing this audience. It was only because I didn't that it went so well.
And what else are you going to be teaching your followers and fans next week in the challenge? So you're going to be covering the big idea, like day one, figure out.
And we're going to do the big idea.
And what I love about that as well, because you have like thousands of people in this community and you have other people supporting you, is you can actually give people direct feedback on what is their big idea, and actually seeing other people sharing their ideas is quite empowering, I think, isn't it?
Really empowering, and it sparks ideas off. We've got nearly 7,000 signed up at the moment for the challenge. And so what happens is, we saw this last year as well, because I only do this challenge once a year. And what we saw is people would write, oh, I'm thinking about doing this. And other people would go, that's an amazing idea. And that's made me think that actually I could do this other thing. And it sparks ideas in everybody, but it also, you will get people in there that are your ideal client. So we had people saying, oh, I'm thinking about doing this like training course for dogs, let's say, for instance, for people that is their first puppy. And we'd have like 20 people going, I'd buy that. And it kind of showed them that is a valid idea that people would want. So it's, day one, we're going to be talking about that. This challenge is made for you to actually do some work. I know that's harsh, but it's not just me teaching, because I don't want you to sit there and fill a notebook and put that notebook on a shelf. I want you to go and do some action so that by the end of the week, you're halfway there and you can go off and make this passive income. So day one, we're going to do that. Day two, we're going to talk about how to grow an audience well, all the things you'll need to know. Day three, we're going to talk about the content and what are some of the things that get people to want to buy your content, whatever it is. And then day four, we're going to talk about launching, because it's so important. It's the bit most people get wrong, is online launching of courses with memberships and that kind of thing. And so in those 4 days, even if you can't make it live at 10 o'clock, you can just catch up on it. You've got 4 days to do all of it. So even if you miss the first 2 days, you can still do it. But it's going to get you to a place, because you're going to have to prove what work you've done. So it's going to get you to a place where you are already implementing. And so even if you can't, obviously I'm doing a challenge because I have a program, one-to-many, that comes out once a year. But even for people that can't afford, or it's not the right time for them to come into that, I want people to go away from this challenge and be able to implement and make money, because the last 2 years that we've done it, people have come back, 5 months later and said, I did your challenge and I'm now making like 5K months, 10K months just from the challenge, nothing to do with they haven't come into the program. And that's the kind of integrity I want to lead with. Like, people can go away and do it without buying anything.
And for any of you that know me, know that I'm really spontaneous. And actually, just as you were talking there, Lisa, I was thinking, actually, if you're listening to this either live or on the replay or on the podcast, I'll tell you what we're going to do, because I'm going to be in the challenge. I've been in Lisa Challenge many times. I actually think, even as an experienced, I have multiple semi-passive income streams in my business, but you can't do this stuff enough. Like, just going back to some of the basics, going back to just like revisiting, who is my ideal client? What am I creating? What's the purpose? What's the vision? What are my options? I think it's always good revisiting this. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up our community, our Facebook community, which is Money Advice for Women. And I'm going to go in next week and give you guys direct feedback as well. So if you're in the one-to-many challenge and you join, which is on the screen right now, it's katherinemorgan.com/passive income. I will give you guys some support in addition to Lisa and Lisa's team, because I think one of the biggest challenges I find for a lot of people is the money stuff. It's like, but I can't do this because if I'm making money, somebody else isn't. But that means I'm going to have to work harder because I have to work hard to make money. Or, but then what are other people going to say about me if I suddenly put this course out there that's about puppy training? All these blocks and things are going to come up. So I want to really support you with this. So I've just spontaneously thought of that, but I'm going to do that in our community next week.
Right, you should just go in for that.
Let's just do it together. Let's do this together because, I cannot tell you how, like, having you in my life, Lisa, in terms of meeting you, I don't even know how long I've known you, like a good 3, 4, 5 years even. Yeah. Like, it's so empowering to be able to sit here. And we've just made a decision in our business that we're moving countries in a month's time. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I was still at the bank. I wouldn't be able to have that opportunity and freedom to make those decisions if I didn't have the business that I have today. And what held me back was, I'm not good enough. Who's gonna work with me? I had 15 years of experience in finance, but who wants to work with me around that? I just had these huge blocks. And I had to really clear all of that crap that I was holding on to believe that it was possible. And that's what I want for you listening to this. I want you to feel that now is your time to create this for yourself, for your family, for every future generation ahead of you, that you can get rid of any of those blocks that are stopping you from making this possible. So I'm so excited.
I was that person that would look at other people and go, but it's not for me. It's different for me. Like, she's only able to make this kind of money because she doesn't have kids. I've got twins, so it's much harder for me. She's only able to do this because her parents probably gave her some money, or maybe she's married to somebody and doesn't even need to work. I would come up with all this stuff, even down to weight. Like, I would say, well, people buy from her because she's pretty and she's a size 6. I'm a size 16, so they're not going to buy from me. I would just come up with crap all the time. We tell ourselves these stories, and what I hope to show what's possible. I am that girl that comes from poverty, that comes from a council estate that's now making multi-millions a year. If I can do this, I don't see why everyone can't do it, because there's nothing special about me. I just used what I knew to teach others, and I think everyone can do that.
And just to finish, Lisa, on that, so you've come from that background and, corporate career as a lawyer, as a wedding planner, and now as a passive income strategist. What do you make in your money? What do you make in your money? What do you make in your business now from reoccurring revenue?
Recurring revenue, we're on target this year to do 3.5 to 4 million.
Wow.
Last year we did 3, I think. Just under 3.
And what purpose does that money bring for you and your life and your family?
So much. Like, our whole life has changed. And you've got to remember that 4 years ago, I was £30,000 in debt. This isn't like a long time. This is very quick that this has happened. So we've been able to buy the house that we live in. We've been able to buy another retreat home. We travel all over the world. I show the twins the world all the time. We were just in Portugal last week. We're constantly doing new things and having experiences. And what I don't have to do now, which I did have to do in that first year, is sacrifice time with them to be able to make the money, because that's one thing I wouldn't do. Like, I want to be there for them now while they're young.
And as you continue to build your business, which we know you're all going to do, right? Because you're on this big mission. What's the big goal, like the big vision for your business, Lisa?
I'd like to get to a point where people realize, like, where I impact enough people that they realize that this is possible for them too. And I also have a big dream to start a foundation, an anti-bullying foundation, because of, the bullying that I had in my life, in my past. I really want to help people who would otherwise, we make a choice when we're bullied to either let it stop us in life or to let it push us forward to be successful. And I think for so many people it stops them, and it didn't with me. And so I would like to be the person that helps them become successful regardless.
Oh, I love that. So reducing, so not just improving your own lifestyle, but also reducing bullying, in the online space, in the offline space. I know you've experienced both and talked about that very openly, so that, it is possible for everybody.
Yeah, because it is. We just need to work out ways to stop ourselves believing it's not for us.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you, Lisa. I know you've got a busy afternoon, but thank you so much for your time today. And please come and join us in this challenge. I'll be in there. There'll be 7,000 people, probably more, by the time it starts on Monday. So come and get some direct feedback on your big idea. Even if you walk away with an idea that, okay, I could do this. This is possible. So it's a completely free challenge. Do come and join us. It starts on Monday. What's the date on Monday? It's 14th. The 14th of June. So if you're listening to this in the future, do come along and follow Lisa anyway, because she has an amazing group as well that she runs, and it really helps people to figure out their big ideas. And Lisa, if anyone wants to contact you directly, where would be the best place for them to find you?
The easiest way is through Instagram. I'm at Lisa Johnson Strategist on there. You can see all of my Instagram stories, which is usually me just traveling. You can contact me on there. I'm always around. Come and say hello.
Great stuff. And if you do want some extra support as well in the challenge next week, come into our Facebook community and we'll support you. We'll all have some fun in there next week, sharing some ideas. And come along to the challenge, and we'll have a fab time and figure out your big idea. So thanks so much, Lisa. Have a wicked rest of your afternoon. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you again on the In Her Financial Shoes podcast. Bye-bye.